everybody, this is Tori, and today we're going on a bookshelf tour part 2. This is the overview of bookshelf number 2, so let's get started. This is shelf number 1. The first series on the shelf is a trilogy. It's the Queen of Babel trilogy by Meg Cabot, those first 3 books. And I loved those. It was about an event planner that talks a lot and just kind of got herself in trouble, but she loved to plan and help her friends. So I felt a really kindred pull with the character in that book. The next 2 are the Selection and the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I've not read those, but they look really fun, and I loved the cover. I thought it was gorgeous. And the covers on the next 2 look gorgeous as well. Those are all the covers on those, and they just look awesome. So I will be looking forward to adding the Elite and the One to my collection. The next book is Sail Away Ladies book. It's a book my parents got me. They were on vacation up at the Cape, like Cape Cod and northeastern New England area, and it's just kind of a historical book. This trilogy is the Princess trilogy, I guess you could call it. I think it's Princess of trilogy by Jessica Day George. It's Princess of the Midnight Ball, Princess of Glass, and Princess of the Silver Woods. They're similar to the 3 Alex Flynn novels I talked about in bookshelf tour number 1. And it's kind of retelling of fairy tales, only modern retellings of them. So the first one's about 12 dancing princesses, which I love that fairy tale. It's kind of an underrated one. The second one is Princess of Glass, which is Cinderella, and the third one's about Little Red Riding Hood. The next 2 books are just 2 standalone novels I have, Looking for Alaska by John Green and All We Know of Heaven by Jacqueline Mitchard. The next series is the Lux series. It's the first 4 books on these shelves written by Anna Godbersen, The Lux, Rumors, Envy, and Splendor. I really liked these books. It took place in turn of the century New York City, and all the Rochester's, Vanderbilts, you know, the money, old money back then. So it discussed teenagers and the lives of kind of these rich teenagers in that time period, and it was really interesting. And then next to that is her Bright Young Things trilogy, which is also by Anna Godbersen, and these take place in Prohibitionary New York, so I'm pretty much eagerly excited to read those 2, but I've not read those 3 books. I've just read the first 4 of the Lux series. So same kind of novels, but 2 different series, same author. And that's shelf number 1. Shelf number 2. There we go. That includes all of them. The first 4 are the first 4 novels by Emily Giffin. I just really liked the simplicity and the brightness of these covers, so I bought them, but I've not read any of those. And then the 3 novels next to the Emily Giffin novels, the Jill Mansell novels, Miranda's Big Mistake, Rumor Has It, and Millie's Fling. Not read those either. They just looked really fun. So that part of the shelf I have not read. But the second part of the shelf I have read. This is what I have of Nora Roberts' collection. This is the Dream trilogy. Daring to Dream, Holding the Dream, and Finding the Dream. This is the In the Garden trilogy. Love these books. Blue Dahlia, Black Rose, and Red Lily. And these are actually older trilogies of hers, both of those. But she re-released them in really pretty, like, modern covers. So that's kind of which one of those looks like, and what one of those looks like. So I'm kind of adding to her collection as she re-releases old trilogies and series and quartets and newer covers. I'm buying them. And then the last 2 series, and one's a quartet, one's a trilogy by Nora Roberts, are 2 of my favorite series I've ever read. This one, these 4 books right here, are the Bridal Quartet series. It's made up of Vision and White, Bed of Roses, Savor the Moment, and Happily Ever After, or Happy Ever After, and love those books. And then this is the In Boonesboro trilogy, The Next Always, The Last Boyfriend, and The Perfect Hope. So that's shelf 2. Shelf 3 is my Nicholas Sparks shelf. It consists of every book he's written in hardback. And he's my favorite author. A couple years ago, it was a goal of mine to collect every one of his novels, and I'm glad to say I accomplished it. So that is his shelf. It just consists of all his works, including the nonfiction work he did with his brother. And the most exciting part about this shelf is the inside of The Longest Ride. I attended a book signing with a friend of mine in Kansas City in October, and he signed that book, so that was awesome. A dream come true. So that's bookshelf number 3. Shelves 4 and 5 are my Julia Quinn shelves. I'm showing them to you together because I have the full works of Julia Quinn, but as you can tell, not all of the books could fit on one shelf. So the first shelf of the Julia Quinn is the Bridgerton series. The Bridgertons are a family that she focuses on. There's 8 children in the Bridgerton family, so each of the 8 novels deal with a different member of the Bridgerton family, and then the last novel is the Bridgertons Happily Ever After. Her fans requested to know what happened to all these characters after the books were completed because she did such a good job of kind of bringing you into the family. And so she wrote second epilogues for all the books, as well as going over the mom and the parents' story, because in the first 8 books, the dad has passed away. He's not alive in any of the books, but the mom is. So you know about the mom, and you know that these parents had an amazing story, but we never get to know what that is. So in that last book, the taller book on the end, she kind of puts in Violet's story, and that deals with the parents' love story after you've read about all the kids' love stories. So that's the first part. And then the second shelf are just the remainder of her works. And I'm going to remove my bunny. This is Bonnie the bunny, everyone. And so this is the remainder of Julia Quinn's books. And she doesn't write series, but she writes books that go together. So the first 3 right here, those 3 kind of go together. And then these 2, and then these 2, and then those 3, and then 2 and 2. But they're not series. So it's not something that you have to read chronologically correct. They just kind of deal with the same sets of characters, or like the last 2 novels on the very, very end on the very right, those 2 blue novels, they deal with sisters. And there's 4 sisters, so there will be a book on each sister, but you can read ones individually or together and you don't lose any part of the story. So they all stand on their own. They just kind of go together that way. So she does write that, and I do enjoy that about her books. And then also they're all written around the same time period and in the same place. They're all written in London or around London in the countryside. So a lot of the books, even though they don't take place necessarily in the same years or in the same even, you know, weeks or months, and it's not the same story or plot, you do get references of some of the other characters. So for instance, the Bridgertons that were on that first shelf are mentioned in some of these books down here, even though the focus is not on the Bridgerton family members. So it's kind of interesting because you feel like you're in the same world the entire time you're reading her series or her novels, and you don't feel like you've ever exited it. So you never really have to say goodbye to any of the characters in her books. You just maybe don't get as much detail about them. So that's why I love her novels, among other reasons. So those are the 2 Julia Quinn shelves. That completes bookshelf tour number 2. There's shelf number 1. And shelf number 2. And the Nicholas Sparks shelf. And Julia Quinn shelves. So that's all. You just watched bookshelf tour number 2, and as I end every video, it's a fun fact about Tori, and like I did with bookshelf tour number 1, I'm going to share the favorite book I've read from this overall shelf and the book I'm most looking forward to reading on the shelf. So the first part, the book I'm most looking forward to reading is Princess of the Midnight Ball. It's the first of that trilogy, the Princess of trilogy, the Princess of Midnight Ball, Princess of Glass, and Princess of the Silver Woods. And this is the first one. And I picked this one over any of the other books because it deals with the 12 Dancing Princesses story. And I like that this book does a retelling of that story. So I'm most looking forward to reading this book. My favorite book on the shelf was really difficult to pick out. I did take it down to 2 books. I do have a tie for favorite, and so the tie is these 2, and I'll go over each one individually. The first one is All We Know of Heaven by Jacqueline Mitchell. This book is a standalone novel. It deals with two girls that get in a car accident and they're best friends and they look similar, and the families believe that one of the girls passed away, but in reality it is actually the other girl that passed away, and it's all told from the perspective of the surviving girl. So she's in her hospital bed, and I believe she's in a coma, and she is listening to her family and her friend's boyfriend talk about, oh, you need to wake up, we miss you, and meanwhile her parents think she's gone and that she's passed away. So when she wakes up, she has to break the news to the families and everybody involved that the girl they buried is actually her. It's actually the one that's alive, and the one that they thought was alive this whole time is actually the girl that they buried. And so it's a really heart-wrenching novel, and it's just completely stuck with me in the years since I've read it. And now that I'm talking about it, I have to go reread it. So that'll probably be next up on my TBR list. And the second book that I put for my favorite book on this novel, or on this bookshelf, was Safe Haven by Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas Sparks takes the top spot for favorite author. My three favorite authors are all on this shelf, Nora Roberts, Nicholas Sparks, and Julia Quinn, but he probably takes the top spot. So I couldn't pick a favorite novel that wasn't his, because I can't do that. So I picked my favorite novel of my favorite author, and that is Safe Haven. He's written a lot of books. You can see all those right there. But this was my favorite one of his. If you've seen the movie and not read the book, then you kind of know the story. His book-to-movie adaptations are pretty good. However, I liked the book better, and the surprise at the end, the twist, was really good. I didn't call it, and it just was a really good ending, and I really liked this novel in its entirety. So that's it for today. That completes bookshelf tour number 2 and gives you an idea of what my favorites on this shelf were and the book I'm most looking forward to reading. See you soon. Thanks for watching.